think it's that time. I think it's time for the elf jumper to come out. I've just got in. I'm running late and I apologise. So, elf jumper's on because it's Advent and it means we are doing 24 videos in 24 days about this time round Python libraries that are fun and cool. Up until now, I have been focusing on third-party libraries. I did and ah an awful lot about whether or not we should do the libraries that are inbuilt into Python themselves. And I wanted to do logging. And then a few days ago, Log4J blew up, and I thought about it some more. I thought, yeah, no, let's do logging. Let's do logging library as a thing. I realize I sound a little bit croaky. I've been to the company's Christmas party this evening. It's been a lot of fun. And the outcome of it is, though, that I'm a bit hoarse. It's only a little hoarse. Anyway, logging is a wonderful thing. And I think a lot of developers, a lot of amateur programmers especially, who write little scripts, don't use logging. When you start using it on the more advanced frameworks like Django, logging becomes more natural to use because the configuration is sort of built in. But I think sometimes logging isn't necessarily well understood. The truth is, especially in Python 3, logging has never been easier to use. In fact, you can open up a thing. I'm just going to restart my kernel as it sort of will become apparent why. So import logging, and then you can just do logging.warning. Hello. Now what's interesting is you then get this output. This is on a console, you get it on the console output. The root is because it's not in a logger, and that's fine. What's interesting, people I think sometimes go with logger.info to get some info out, and nothing happens. It's like, okay, I've got to configure logging. And the reality is there's actually different loggers, and there is a configuration already in by default, which is to print to the console, but only of anything above the info level. So there are actually 5 different levels of logging. So there's logging.info, logging.debug, which comes below a level of logging. And you really got to, when you start using logging, decide what you're going to put in these different levels. Debug is usually the most verbose. And the idea is you select a level to log out, and anything above that level also goes. So it's logger.info, logger.warning, logging, sorry, not .warn. If you use .warn, you actually get a warning. It works, but you actually get a warning. So don't do that. Warning, hi. Above that, logging.error, which is what you use the most for saying, like in exceptions and things, hey, this thing's gone wrong. This is an error. And then above that, there's another one, .critical. Process stopping. And you really do want to limit those uses of critical. To be honest with you, you really want to say only when it's unexpected exit, you want the critical type thing. And that's it. So basically, if you run all these, you'll get some printed off. With the default one, you basically get out, so it looks like this. It's not very pretty. So you want to configure. So what you want to do is you want to call the basic config. There are the more complex configurations. The more complex configurations allow you to say, well, I want everything to go to a file, but I want errors and criticals to go to a Slack channel or a Discord server or a Teams channel, whatever you want to do. So basically, the basic config is this, logging.basicconfig. And you might do file equals whatever to put into a file, but I'm just going to do the format. And the format has to be right. Percentage ASC time, S colon, bracket S colon. So it's percentage level name, S. And then we'll do percentage message, S, like that. I'm going to date from it. I don't like that, to be honest with you. I don't like that it's wrong. I'm actually going to bring my date format in. I'm going to copy and paste this from the other screen. The reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to look up all these codes. But I actually want my date to be year, month, day, so that when I look at them, they go in sequential order. If you start doing day, month, year, or month, year, day, it's not always in a numerical order. So I always do year, month, day when I'm doing computer programs. This is going to do local hour followed by AM, PM. Just because of what I've chosen. And it's basic config with the G. So you run that, and I didn't put a quote mark on the end of my bracket. There we go. Oh dear, what am I doing here? So my screen isn't very good here. There you go. Now, when I run this again now, let me just restart my kernel. it's very important to notice the order of events there. The basic config actually has to happen before you start logging out. If you start logging and the config hasn't been applied, it applies the basic config. If I then apply a different basic config here, right, and try running that again, it doesn't change the output because a basic config has already happened. So if you do a basic config or any config and then apply a different config, it's only the first one. The rest are no ops, and that is in the documentation. But what you begin to get straight away is a better formatted output. So I don't need to worry about putting the timestamps in. I get the criticals. I can now grep this nicely, and those are my error messages. So you're able to control the format. Then my code, I can just put log.warning and put something in here. And that pretty much is logging in a nutshell for very basic type logging. The next thing up is actually using loggers. So loggers are a bit more powerful. The one in the middle is that, when I show you the first one, is the logger was the root logger. And sometimes what you actually want to do is you actually want to put the name in here as well. I'm going to put percentage name s in there. I'm going to restart my kernel. So if you're writing this a command line, every time you restart the program, that counts as a new. So you got that root in there. Okay. What you can actually do is do logger equals logging.getLogger, and you can't ever instantiate a logger. You always have to use getLogger and give it a word here like thing. Okay, and now I can do logger.warn hello, and what you get now, warning, sorry, you actually get that word there, that name is now mapped to thing because I'm using that logger. So what you might do if you're making classes, you might do def class foobar, the class, or class foo. I might have a local logger, and then def init like this, self. I might do self.logger equals logging.get logger, and then foo in there. And then in my function, def bar self, I can do self.logger.warning. It's what's called. That way, what you can now start to do is in your logging, it will start producing logs with different modules in the actual. You can put the module name, you can actually pick the module name out of the file, you might put your class name in there. There are things where you can do underscore name like this. Fancy stuff like that. You can do that, you don't have to do it, whatever you like. And then you can grep your logs. You can also say in your config, I only want to see logs from a particular module. You can say, I don't want to see logs from a module. That's super powerful when you're using libraries, because you can say, I don't want to see any logs from, for example, from requests. I want to turn debug on, but I don't want to see debug logs from requests. I don't want to see debug logs from my application. Reduce the amount of spam you have to wade through when you try to debug why some business logic isn't working. So it's as easy as using print, but it's worth doing. It's worth getting to the habit of when you're writing a little script saying, I'm not going to use print today, I'm going to use logging instead to do my debugging in. And then you can flick on debug on and off by saying level equals whatever in your basic config line. If you're using more advanced frameworks like Django, then definitely look at the Django logging config, because actually it has built into the configuration system already. Have a look at how you can send different logs in different places. This is only a taster into the logging library, really. But if you're using something like a Flask, it's definitely worth using this logger system to log from different views or different things to get better quality logs rather than using print. Because fundamentally, print will always print standard out. In some integrations, that's bad. Whereas logging can be sent to different places. You can send logging to a file. You can append to a file. You can have those files rotate. You can send it to a TCP, so by UDP, to something like FileBeat. I'd always send it to a file and then have something like FileBeat to pick those files up and ship them over to Logstash or Elasticsearch or whatever you want to do. So I would generally always log to a file. If I'm not going standard out, I'll go to a file. Would be my recommendations. But you do have to watch out for your disk space filling up over however long your program's running for. Anyway, this is just one of 24 videos in a series of 24 Python libraries in 24 days for Advent. If you're enjoying these, please hit like, please subscribe, please look at the other videos that should be appearing somewhere over there, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Thank you very much.